G'day Scarefest fans, my name's Glenn, I'm from fakeshemp.net and I'm here to bring a little bit of an Aussie infusion to Scarefest TV. I'm going to play a game with you, I'm going to go back in time and I'm going to unearth a forgotten, a lost, an unknown Australian genre film that you've probably never heard of, and then I'm going to jump back into my pretend time machine to now to talk about a brand new film that you might want to keep your eyes open for. But for this first installment, I'm going to cheat just a little bit because I've chosen a 2008 documentary called Not Quite Hollywood, the wild untold tale of Ozploitation. Now the reason I've chosen this one is because it's an encyclopedia of classic Aussie genre films. A lot of the films I'm going to be talking about through this series will be featured in this doco, and if you love all that's weird and wonderful about horror and genre and exploitation, this is a film for you. One thing that we need in the Australian film industry to make a bankable film, you need a bankable talent. And so we attract all kinds of Hollywood stars, A-listers, TV stars, people from Europe. Big names come here to make these films. But in the 70s and the 80s in particular, when these Ozploitation films flourished, they had no idea what they were getting themselves into. The working conditions were terrible. It was the true definition of exploitation, and these people that were used to trailers with, professional fluffers and all the luxuries were suddenly finding themselves in, dusty trailers with no assistant, no catering, no safety regulations, and they were contracted to it. So this documentary goes back and looks at films, some that you may know, like Mad Max, but then a whole lot of other ones like Stone, Stunt Rock, Turkey Shoot, Dead End Drive-In, Patrick, The Long Weekend, all the stuff that you're seeing on the screen right now. How could I forget Razorback? One of the best! But rather than go into detail, this is definitely one that you want to discover yourself. The doco features people like Quentin Tarantino, who actually coined the term Ozploitation himself, Jamie Lee Curtis, Stacey Keach, George Lazenby, Steve Railsback, George Miller, Dennis Hopper, and a whole bunch of others. And before I move on, I've got to say that Mark Hartley, the guy that made this documentary, he's made two more. It's kind of like a quasi-trilogy, if you will. The second one was called Machete Maidens Unleashed, which told the story of the American exploitation market heading to the Philippines and exploiting them. And then the other one was Electric Boogaloo, which told the story of Cannon Films and the way they exploited people. I guess Mark loves exploitation, and don't we all? So now I'm just going to jump in my time machine and head back to 2019. And now I want to talk about a movie called Blood Vessel. This one premiered recently at Monster Fest here in Australia. Monster Fest, not a sponsor. And it's directed by a guy called Justin Dix. Now if you know that name, Justin Dix, that means you are a real die-hard horror fan. He's a guy that runs a company called Wicked of Oz, and they do all kinds of prosthetics and special effects for movies like Star Wars Episode 2 and 3, Charlotte's Web, Red Hill, Storm Warning, The Loved Ones, Gates of Hell, and a whole lot of others. He made a feature film several years ago called Crawl Space, so this one is his sophomore film, and it is packed to the brim with atmosphere. I absolutely love this one. Blood Vessel kind of cashes in on that whole Nazi subgenre that, everyone seems to be doing these days. Only this film doesn't actually have Nazis. It takes place during World War II, and it tells the story of a bunch of people that are stranded on a life raft after their hospital ship was torpedoed. And when they think they're on the last dying breath, there's no more rations, they're all starting to wither away. Along comes a German minesweeper ship barreling towards them through the ocean at full speed, and somehow, in a very cool way, which I'm not going to spoil, they manage to climb aboard. But rather than finding Nazis on the ship, there's certainly signs of Nazis that were there. Instead, they find beneath the decks an entire cargo full of vampires. Now, we're talking about really classic gothic vampires. Think Bram Stoker's Dracula, think Nosferatu, that rubbery hammer horror style of aesthetic, bat-like features and all that kind of stuff. This is a massive throwback, and where this film really shines is in the atmosphere. It's mostly shot inside a real warship called the HMAS Castlemaine, and so everything is so tight and claustrophobic. Justin Dix makes use of fog machines and blue lights and red lights, and everything is so amped up on atmosphere that you feel it in your core. And then he makes really effective use of miniatures, so when we see the ship coming at the camera in the ocean, it is a miniature. But you would never know it unless I've just told you now. Spoiler alert, you might recognise a couple of the actors. Robert Taylor is one of the stars. Now he's the guy that's the lead in the TV show Longmire. A lot of people might not know that he's an Aussie. And then Nathan Phillips, who starred alongside Samuel L. Jackson in Snakes on a Plane and was one of the main guys in Wolf Creek. And there's a whole bunch of other people that are worth looking into. Blood Vessel is old-fashioned horror with modern standards of gore. lots of bumps in the night, lots of scares, and what I would just call a bloody good time. So keep your eyes open for Blood Vessel. It's currently doing the festival rounds in Europe, some festivals here. Hopefully before long it finds its way to your shores, winds up in your festivals, maybe on DVD, maybe on streaming. Fingers crossed it gets a theatrical release. And that's about all from me. So there's 2 movies from Australia that you might want to catch. Not quite Hollywood. Blood Vessel. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.